Hello and welcome to JAX 2018. I'm here with Mike Milinkovich, Executive Director of the Eclipse Foundation. And you just had your talk about the future of Java development. With OpenJ9, Deep Learning for J, Microprofile, and last but not least, Jakarta EE now, the Eclipse Foundation will play a major role in the future of Java development. How do you feel about that and your corresponding responsibility?
Well, I mean, how do I feel about that? You hear these stories about rock and roll bands that are, quote, overnight successes that have been actually working and touring for a decade. And so I feel kind of like a little bit like that, where we've had some recent successes with Jakarta, Deep Learning for J, Microprofile, you know, these projects that you mentioned and I did mention in my talk. And I think that that's drawing a lot of attention to the Eclipse Foundation, but to a certain degree, one, it's kind of, this is a reaction to things that we've been working on for a very long time, right? In terms of the processes and the maturity of those processes and the messages about being receptive to developers and being able to work with developers and large companies. And I think that so it's a recognition of the mechanisms that we've put in place for a long time, and so I think that's great, and we're really happy that it's coming our way. In terms of the responsibility, I honestly don't worry about that too much because we are going to keep on doing what we do. We've had now 14 years of practice of doing open source the right way, of being vendor neutral, of managing our projects to the benefit of all of the developers that are working on them, and I don't see any of that changing. So I think, you know, when running an open source foundation is not like running a for-profit company. You know, if one of our projects doesn't work out and fails, we have 350 other projects, right? I mean, the success or failure of no one project changes our mission of being a collaborative place for people and companies to come together and innovate.
Let's get a little bit into more details regarding Jakarta EE. What is the current status quo and what is planned for the rest of the year?
So the status quo is we're busily moving over a lot of projects. So there's going to be in total something right around 40 new projects at the Eclipse Foundation. So migrating every one of those projects over is a big job. So we're going through that. I think that the goals for this year are relatively straightforward. And they sound simple, but there's going to be an enormous amount of work that goes into them. So it's basically our goals for this year is to ship 2 releases. So Eclipse Glassfish 5.1, which will be Java EE8 certified. And so for that to happen, we have to get all the projects moved to Eclipse. We have to run them through the Eclipse processes of incubation, shipping a release, and also run the process of running the TCKs on eclipse.org infrastructure. So that'll get us to Eclipse Glassfish 5.1. And then after that, we want to ship Eclipse Glassfish 5.2, which we're then going to certify as Jakarta EE8 compatible. And that is going to be this almost exactly the same code, but the work to get that one is going to be different because for that to happen, we have to have the whole Jakarta specification process set up. And so that's a parallel effort that's going to take an enormous amount of work because setting up new specification organizations is a very long and involved and very detailed and legal process.
One part of making Jakarta EE whole is establishing a new community process that will replace the current JCP.
Yeah.
So can you give a little bit of details on that?
Yeah, so that's something that we're currently working on. We have a lot of work to do, mostly with the lawyers, because there's actually the level of complexity is extreme. It's kind of hard to explain because you have an existing process that's been in effect for many years, and everybody knows exactly how it works. and then we're going to completely replace it from a blank piece of paper, bringing it to Eclipse. What we're trying to do is marry the best parts of the JCP process to the best parts of the Eclipse development process. So some of the ideas that we're exploring is like running the expert groups more like open source projects, and having them mirror, like the expert groups basically being a group of committers working on a project, except where the output of the project is a document as opposed to running code. But then there's a whole bunch of intellectual property management things that have to happen in terms of contributing patents, and when does that happen and how does that happen, because in the end, the goal for the Jakarta spec process is going to be to enable independent implementations, just like the JCP. So this isn't just about specifying the work that happens at the Eclipse Foundation. This is creating specifications that are good enough and clear enough that Oracle and IBM and Red Hat and all these companies can go off and independently implement them and then certify that their versions are compatible. So the things that we have to do is we have to write the spec process, we have to write a compatibility certification process. There has to be a set of rules around who can use the Jakarta logo and what are the restrictions on being able to use it when you're labeling your product, right? So it's just a long list of things that have to be worked through, and it's one of these things where you're not done until the whole thing is done, right? So, you know, like when you sit there and you work on your program for hours and hours and hours, and it almost compiles, right? So it's like one of those situations. It doesn't work until it all works.
Mm-hmm. So over the last couple of years, Oracle has neglected Java EE, and now it has donated it to the Eclipse Foundation. Same goes with Apache NetBeans, which is now an Apache project, and now the Java 1 is also renamed to Oracle Dev 1, I guess.
Code 1.
Code 1, yeah. And yeah, it seems that Oracle has lost interest in Java. Do you think that this is true, or even that Java SE might one day be an Eclipse project?
So let's answer the last part first, because at this moment I don't think it's very likely that SE would move to the Eclipse Foundation. I think that with what they've done with OpenJDK, they have something that works for them. At this point, given where we are, given where the industry is, where I see Oracle going, no, I don't think Java SE is going to move to the Eclipse Foundation. As much as I think it would be a good idea, and as much as I always believe that open source foundations are the right way to go, I don't see that happening anytime soon. In terms of whether, I don't think Oracle has lost interest in Java at all. I think what you're seeing to a large degree is making Java justify the money they're spending on it. I mean, so there's revenue. So Oracle is a business, and so they have to they run it like a business. So there's no way that the Oracle Java team gets to say, oh yeah, we can lose money because millions of Java developers use our stuff, right? That's never going to fly inside Oracle. So they do have to come up with a business model that justifies their investment. In the case of Java EE, as distinct from SE, I think that the important thing to remember is that as the enterprise customers are pivoting towards the cloud, the original mission for Java EE of being an on-premise app server is becoming end of life, right? So I actually see what Oracle is doing with Jakarta is a smart move for them from a business perspective, but it's also a great move for Java developers, because what this is allowing us to do is to take this technology forward, right? As long as it was tied to a declining revenue stream attached to on-premise app servers, the investment level was never going to go up. But by having other companies involved and by tying it to cloud native and by tying it to microservices and the like, we have an opportunity to see the investment go up and make this, and more importantly, use that investment to make this technology relevant to today's cloud first world, right? So by focusing on cloud native implementations and integrations, by focusing on microservices, by focusing on reactive, by focusing on decoupling the specifications so that you don't necessarily have to run all of the app server in order to run, because you want to run one spec or one piece of functionality. All of these things coming together, I think, give us a real opportunity to bring this platform forward and refresh it and make it a technology that developers want to use for many years to come.
Mm-hmm. With all those new technologies, new projects, new things being developed at the Eclipse Foundation or under the roof of the Eclipse Foundation, it's easy to lose sight of the Eclipse IDE platform.
Yep.
With Eclipse Photon upcoming in a couple of weeks, what can developers expect from that? So
first, I'm going to preface this answer by saying that I've been so busy getting ready for the announcement today about Jakarta EE that I haven't spent as much time on focusing on Photon as I normally would at this point in the process. But a couple of things that come to mind that I think are important for developers to know is, one is for Oxygen, the development team was entirely focused on getting ready for Jigsaw and Java 9 and modularity, and so all of the energy on the core IDE team was going into getting ready for the language changes. And with Photon, because the language changes are more minor, the energy has been going in on performance and usability. So expect to see a Photon release that is faster and has had a lot of sort of annoying UI problems fixed. And so I think that's something that I think a lot of developers will be really happy about. Second thing is that there's been a lot of emphasis put on using language server protocol, and so there's LSP for J, which is is being used to provide the Java Code Assist for Visual Studio Code, and then there's LSP for E, which is how they integrate LSPs into the Java IDE workbench, or the IDE workbench. So what the team has been doing is, by focusing on enabling LSP, they're setting Eclipse up to make it far easier to add new languages going forward than it has been in the past. So getting back to the original promise of being a workbench that makes it really simple and straightforward to build a lot of language support. I think the last year has seen a lot of progress being made on that front. So I think that's really cool. And then related to that is just very recently, like as in within the last couple of days, there's a new project at Eclipse called Eclipse Corrosion, which is an IDE for Rust. So for those who don't know, Rust is an interesting new programming language. It's from Mozilla, that they're using in their more recent Firefox implementations. And Rust as a language has been getting a lot of attention. So as part of the overall Photon release, there's going to be the Eclipse Corrosion is going to be part of that simultaneous release. So we're going to have an IDE for Rust, which I think is actually pretty cool.
And as a last question, perhaps a little outview on the future of Eclipse and the near future, like this and next year. Any cool corporations coming up or something like that?
I think 2018 is really going to be the year where we're going to look back and recognize that it was the year that our message that we do more than a Java IDE is going to really be cemented. That's the year that it finally, people's brains will finally connect that what the Eclipse Foundation does goes beyond the Java IDE. I mean, the Java IDE is great. Don't get me wrong. It's our roots. It's our heritage, and it's still a great product. But the Eclipse Foundation has been doing many other things for many years, but we've always been sort of pigeonholed as that's the only thing we do. with Jakarta, with microprofile, with deep learning for J, Vertex, these projects, but also then things that we haven't really talked at all about, like Internet of Things, right? 30 projects in IoT, none of which are tools. Device gateway frameworks, protocol implementations, cloud infrastructure projects, right? So there's a lot of different threads coming together, and our recent rebranding with the new Eclipse Foundation logo and the new website. I mean, there's a lot of things that are coming together where I think by the end of 2018, the big switch is that the mental picture of what the Eclipse Foundation does and what our role is will have changed to we are a platform for collaboration and innovation, and we are a cool place to go and bring your open source project if you're looking for an open source foundation, and that we have a lot to offer the broader open source community as a place as a good home for really cool open source projects.
Then thank you very much, Mike, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.